Hey guys, what's going on? James Klug here. Today we're at Turning Point USA's YWLS asking women if they believe that there's a direct correlation between gun rights and women's empowerment. Let's go talk to some people. Is there a direct correlation between gun rights and women's empowerment? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I do have an Instagram photo that's captioned, the Second Amendment has given women more equality than the entire feminism movement has.
I believe that gun rights are women's rights because the women's movement, women's liberation movement is about making sure that we have equality. And what better equality to have than to have that physical aspect of equality.
Women's empowerment is based on being able to protect themselves and feel confident.
As women, we have the choice to choose a defense tool. The Second Amendment gives us that right to have that defense tool be a firearm, and we need to be responsible for our own safety.
I was not raised with guns in my vernacular. In fact, if anything, I worked in entertainment. I continue to work in entertainment, so that's very liberal left world.
Yeah.
So that being said, I personally got into firearms when my life took a very sudden and tragic twist. I was married. My husband had suddenly passed away very unexpectedly, and I suddenly felt as though, as a woman, my stability was gone from beneath my feet. I felt very vulnerable. I felt like I needed to search something that allowed me to feel more empowered again, more in control.
Being able to protect yourself, being able to protect your family, to not rely on somebody, to not be vulnerable. And in order to do that, you want to feel safe. So it's our right to carry a gun.
The men who are targeting women are looking for easy targets, vulnerable. So of course, women who are smaller, something that's going to make it easy for them to commit their crime.
I started in this movement because I was a college student and I was concerned about my safety, walking home late at night from the library, from my graduate courses at night to the parking lot where so many women have not been able to reach there safely before me. And I was sick and tired of my peers being in that situation.
I'm 5'1". I'm very pragmatic about what my strengths and my limitations are, and having a tool that I could use to defend myself became incredibly important to me.
We're the only ones who can defend ourselves. We can't rely on anyone else, and I think it's very important that we take that seriously, and then we look at our Second Amendment to help bridge that gap and carry the gun. I mean, the gun is the greatest equalizer.
A gun is an equalizer, is the greatest equalizer that we have as women, to be able to go against this 200, 300-pound man, right? Yeah. Or just a man in general, and have a fighting chance.
For a lot of women out there that may be just uncomfortable with firearms, or possibly even, wildly anti-gun, what do you think is the best way to kind of bridge that gap between where they're at and where you're currently at, a gun supporter?
Okay, so this is the biggest, I think, controversial issue is there's not a lot of women in the firearms industry or willing to say, I want to shoot a gun, or I want to be able to carry a gun.
Every woman can relate to wanting to protect their family, protect their loved ones, and also just talking about it from a personal safety standpoint. I think every woman knows somebody who might have been affected by, hopefully not something so strong as like a violent act, but, there are evil people in the world, and there are women who've been followed in parking garages and things like that, and just having that conversation of saying, hey, what would you do in that situation if maybe you were approached or you saw someone sketchy in a parking garage? Have you thought about how you would react to that? And I think kind of relating on that level and just asking them those questions to get them thinking about their personal safety is a way to then say, okay, so then if you didn't know what to do, what are your options? And then just kind of help build that conversation.
The best way, honestly, for me is to tell a personal story. So I would say that I have a stalker, and he's very, very scary, and he was recently arrested for kidnapping. So he's an imminent threat. So as soon as I was allowed to carry, I I did.
For me, though, even before then, I mean, I voted for Obama. I was a Democrat before. It was really the gun issue that really changed my mind. Of, you know what? If I trust myself that I'm a law-abiding citizen, I'm someone that I can actually go out and get the training that I need to utilize this tool safely, then why shouldn't I be able to have a firearm to protect myself wherever I choose?
Most women they stop in their tracks because of fear. Maybe somebody had a bad experience. Maybe they've heard all of the misinformation about, the gun is basically going to go bang on its own. And so the first part of it is a conversation. And I like to always tell people, this is how a gun works. So before you even touch it, let me explain to you the mechanics of it so that you understand that it's just not going to inherently go off on its own.
The problem lies between the presentation of it. It's a life-changing purchase. It's a life-changing life change. So if we had more support from gun dealers, from salespeople that made this transition and this life change easier and comfortable.
And then we start to talk about, safety and how to be safe around a firearm. And there's ways of baby stepping. I mean, I always like when I talk about firearms with women and we start discussing the idea of concealed carry and all that, I equate it to finding the perfect pair of jeans. And I think, when I say that,
I love that.
What I mean by that is for women, it's very difficult to find jeans, and most women would understand that. And not every pair fits every woman. And so much like a firearm for women, you have to find a firearm that feels comfortable, that you are not only comfortable with the caliber that you're shooting, but you're interested and willing and looking forward to training with it, because that's such a huge component.
It is really easy for someone to go from, I never really liked guns, I'm fearful of guns, to I actually understand that it's actually there to protect my life.
Yes.
And if you use it with someone who actually wants to use it for protection and protecting other people, including yourself, then why can't other people have that? I think once you have that aha moment, so many people can go from where I was to being fearful of guns to being a gun advocate 4 years later.
Once you are embracing that lifestyle of thinking about how you're going to defend yourself, eventually you'll be like, mace is not going to be enough. Taser's not going to be enough. So then what's next? Firearm. And I think that's just a great way to kind of have that conversation amongst your girlfriends. And it's just an open, honest conversation to say, we need to think about our personal safety. How would you react in that situation?
You're obviously in the firearms industry.
I am, yes.
Talk to me a little bit about that. I'd love to hear, for the viewers and everything, love to hear a little bit more about that.
So I do a lot of law enforcement military contracts. I used to own a retail store, and again, we would have a lot of families that would come in, and instead of like, hey, this is, you need to buy this because this is what I carry, and I like this tool because you should have it, or you know what I mean? Like, it was more hugs and let's, bring the family in and let the kids, see this environment.
I started a lifestyle blog called Style Me Tactical, and the purpose of that really was to help to inspire women to think about the personal safety and to do that through what we've talked about, like mindset and things like that. So, my journey led to owning a firearm, and I now carry concealed as much as I can. And one of those things was I was not going to give up my skinny jeans and heels to carry a defense tool, so I started documenting tips and tricks on my blog and showcasing women, like how you can still be stylish and self-reliant. And then with our show, Not Your Average Gun Girls, I teamed up with my best friend, Amy Robbins, who we met through social media for our shared love of the Second Amendment. And through that show, it's just an extension of our missions, and we want to make sure that, we're sharing women's stories and empowering more women and giving them the inspiration to say, I can defend myself. This is what I can do, and just kind of help build that community of us women who believe in the Second Amendment and believe in our freedom and want to be able to defend ourselves.
Empowered is actually a national student organization that I created about 2 years ago that is really for young women, high school and college women, because like I said, I was a grad student not too long ago, and I realized that women have this unique circumstance on college campuses. Because they're students, the government, people around them don't believe that they should have their Second Amendment rights, and that's not okay. And I really believe that young women are going to be the future of the gun rights movement, and so I started Empowered, which is allowing young women to be part of the movement, to educate, train, and advocate for their rights. So they can be to the point so they can go out and lobby for campus carry, or even in Massachusetts, where right now, four-year universities, you're not allowed to even carry pepper spray on campus. So it's really about the self-defense issue, and I wanted a program, a place that other women can go with other like-minded young women on campus.
I was inspired to start training because a lot of the training that I was doing on my own when I was really getting into firearms, I realized that I was pretty much more often than not the only woman in a particular class. And while that didn't necessarily keep me from going back, I realized that there's probably a very large audience of women that are interested but are also very intimidated by going to a male-dominated classroom. So that inspired me to start Tactigal. And originally Tactigal was really just about maybe doing educational blogs and things like that, and kind of sharing the message of being a female gun owner. I'm a female gun owner. I live in New York City. I love fashion, but I also love firearms. And I think there's a way of combining those interests and those passions.
What do you typically carry, and how do you typically carry it?
I carry for the summertime, because seasonal, us ladies have to have options. So in the summertime, I carry Glock 43 appendix inside the waistband, and in the fall times, I carry an HK VP9 SK.
I have a Smith & Wesson M&P 22, and I would put it in my purse.
I carry 3 weapons. I carry mostly full-size weapons. I do carry one little 380.
Nice.
And which I always have that on my body. So if something were to happen to my purse, which I have one in my purse, I had something on my body. What I recommend when you purse carry is I always keep a little crossbody bag in my big purse. So I have all my, my good stuff in my big purse, but as soon as I go to a store, I throw my crossbody on so it's attached to my body.
I'm a big fan. I've tried a number of different firearms, and I will say it is challenging when you're a petite woman to figure out what is the best combo for you. So I found that a 6-hour P365 was now my go-to. I loved it for a number of reasons. I loved it because it was incredibly compact. It's very easy to wear and to conceal on a female figure. The other thing too is that it does allow for a higher round capacity, which is sort of unusual when you get with a lot of these concealed carry very subcompact guns. Most of the time it is diminished round count, but with the SIG P365 you actually get the equivalent of more of a fuller size firearm, which I think is very important.
We're trained to be safe and we're trained to protect, and we don't want to be the problem. So definitely on the body. I also keep one in my vehicle. So
You're prepared. You're not going to be a victim.
Never, never.
The whole feminist movement is about making sure that you are not a victim. That is victim mentality that we have today about rape culture and stuff like that. That's great. I'm glad you're talking about that. But what can we do for women so we can prevent them from being victims in the first place? So that's what Empowered is about.
Love it. Thanks so much.
Empowered2a.org.
Love it. Check it out, guys.